Hello, trading is closed on May 31st, 2016. Over the weekend we had a few calls. First of all, we said we had conflicting indicators. So I guess I should be happy that we traded over Friday's high and under Friday's low. I said the commonest consequence was we had a gap outside of the day's range. We did that. I said the next most common occurrence was we closed little change, and we did that too. I had two possibilities for the open. One was I said that this rally into the close prior to a long weekend almost always followed through, which it did, but I said this would often gap down. Obviously each of those things couldn't happen. We didn't have a gap down, but we had a intraday island reversal and reversed pretty promptly. I also said that I thought we would have an important signal at the open. I thought it was critical. That didn't quite work. Had we had a gap under these lows, it would have been pretty convincing that the high was in. Had we gapped up more than this, the point I wanted to see beaten was this one. I actually didn't want to see it beaten, if I'm correct about things. If we gapped over this, I would have to admit all my stuff wasn't going to work. But we didn't do that. These small gaps, 2-3 points gaps, these tend to fill pretty promptly. I admit that I've toyed with this line a little bit, but we still don't have a convincing break over it, so the gap up didn't really settle things. During the day, MEJT gave an ultimate sell signal right at the top. We got the minimum pretty fast, but there's nothing requiring us to stop at the minimum. In the afternoon, it said there was a buy, and if the move were immediate, it should be strong. The move wasn't immediate. As always, a buy in MEJT means there's a higher price target. It does not preclude lower prices from printing first, but when they print first, the system marks them as false and says we're going to recover to this line, which we did, and that's the resistance area. Well, this is not a very favorable pattern, and unless we gap up sharply over this high, I think lower prices and possibly much lower prices are coming. We've gapped up 2 days in a row, and we couldn't close over any of these highs. We couldn't even close over this low. We couldn't even close over yesterday's highs. What happened during the day was we had a hole in the wall gap. These things tend to fill pretty promptly. There was resistance under the low of the wall. There was an obligation to retrace to this line, which we did. There's resistance over that. I have strong resistance at this high based on quite a few systems of other people's work. We have a wall into the close. This thing dropping in the last minute doesn't mean a thing to me. Usually when there's a wall into the close, it's not the smart money doing the purchases, particularly when you gap up, hit some new highs, and can't even close positively, can't close over these highs. If I'm correct about this, this rally should be reversed, most likely promptly, with a good chance but not an obligation to gap under these lows. If we gap under these lows, the MEJT target should print of 2087.86. But since it's been tested and given some support, I wouldn't expect it to offer much support if it were tested again. The first challenge here tends to hold, but the next one tends to break in grand style. So we have a good chance of gapping down sharply tomorrow and going much further down. There's a good chance of that, but the only call I'm going to make is unless we have a gap over these highs, which I do not see happening, I'm looking for substantially lower prices tomorrow. The gap is not required, but I think it's quite likely, and that's today's call.